Alright, welcome back. Okay, so I want to know a couple of things before I basically jump into level 9 here. So, for those who didn't watch level 8, I essentially had Dust Merchant basically pop up at the end of the level for, well, during the level of, like, the last level. And he basically was a merchant who dealt with dust. Now, basically something I like to do with Dust Merchants is that I like to buy items from him and then take them to the next level. And these are the items I basically took from the last level. Now, I'll note that these items here, they're ones I basically don't want to use. And essentially, they're essentially stuff that I want to sell to the next merchant I basically find. So, that's just something I want to note about like the merchant basically who I bought stuff from and why I bought this stuff. It's basically so I could carry over the items to the next level so I could sell them if I need to. If I could find, you know, a merchant to sell them to. Anyhow, to start off this level, we'll have Max do a little bit more exploration for us. And I think at this point we'll build just a little bit more food modules. To get a little bit more food. Goals, you can go up here. Max go down here. And on this module we're going to build another food replicator. Alright, so I want to know a couple things that I didn't really get to note in the last episode that I really should have. Basically, when you get to level 8 or not level 9, you really should be thinking about like your end game because the monsters are going to be like, generally they're going to be all elite monsters coming at you at this point, or a lot of them are going to be elite monsters. And you have to basically be prepared for the fact that they're going to be a lot more numerous and powerful than like they have in the previous levels like thus far. So at this point, you basically start focusing on our modules that are basically not these science, industry, or food, but stuff like the tactical, the land, shopping and emergency reserve if you don't got it, and then other modules like, you know, the weapon modules if you don't have them, some of the like, you know, support modules as well as the hindering modules. So that's where my research is going to be focused basically in this specific episode. So for now we're going to use Max to explore a little bit. Alright, so there's an example of the toxic cloud basically popping up from a crowd capsule. That's basically one of the bad events you can get from a crowd capsule sometimes. Nothing you can really do about it. As a result of that popping up, I'm basically going to move all these guys to move into the next level up here. And apparently got a toxic cloud up here as well. Alright, well I'm going to take Max and Gork then down to over here. So it's worth knowing that this levels up here, they're basically all more or less like, you know, they're going to, basically once I power this room up here, all these levels will be basically safe from attack. I think to start off with, we'll build a couple smoking guns here, as well as a couple Tesla modules. And for the initial bit, I'm going to basically use Max to explore a little bit more dust to basically use. I'm finding lots of toxic clouds, that's for sure. Let's go over here. Alright, excellent. So I got a little bit of dust, so I can power up this room down here. I'm going to put one more food replicator over here. And I'll bring Nano down to this level, this part of the level over here. And while I have a chance, it's probably a good time to level up Gork a couple times. That'll get him up to Bloody Showman 2, which will basically give him more attack power, basically when he's in a room with other heroes. And down here, I think we'll put down a Science Creator. Alright, so I'm going to note at this point that I could be using Max to basically operate on modules, but around level 9, if you have like Max in your party, and you don't have a better explorer than him, he's actually a really good door opener just because he's got that Pilfer 2, if at level 10. Or at level 5 he'll have Pilfer 1, which is still good. This Pilfer ability will basically make it a lot easier for me to gather dust. And combined with the fact I've got Nair in my party, I'll be able to use like cooking of gas as well to get a lot of dust as well. It's just a matter of basically getting the dust. There's an executive armband. Now, I'll note something about your inventory, by the way, since I've got basically a chance to basically showcase this. Your backpack basically can only carry 4 items from one floor to the other, in spite of all the inventory your heroes have on themselves as well. If you have 4 items in your backpack and like you've equipped all you're going to on your heroes, any other items that you have will be put in like your floor inventory. The floor inventory is essentially items that will be lost if they don't get if you go like exit the level. So these items up here, they'll be saved if I go to the next level. But any item in the inventory down here, they'll be lost. So you want to be very careful of this down here. And I'm going to put this here. Now note, by the way, if you click like this item and click right here, you can actually move items back and forth between these 2 inventories. A little bit of tidbit of advice there. So left click, left click, left click, left click. Good way of basically moving around stuff if you basically have stuff in your backpack you want to save, or stuff in your inventory you want to move over to your backpack to save, or vice versa. Alright, let's carry on. I'll move over here next. A lot of rooms with no major module slots in them. Knowing that right now. Alright, you got some enemies coming. Now, I want to note something, by the way. The nice thing about Max is that he's got this skill called Run Away. And while you might think that speed is like a very useless ability to have, it's actually beneficial if you want to get him from one point to another. So, in this case, we're going to make him run all the way over to Nana and Gork over here really, really fast. And get him out of any harm's way he might be in. So that's done. And I feel confident I can take Max down here to explore past this room over here for now, because I didn't see any like enemies that attack major modules or anything like that. So excellent, we found a research module. So basically, to sort of carry on from what I was saying, at this point I'm going to be researching stuff that I think will basically help me in the long term. So we're going to be looking at more like the hindering modules and like the support modules at this point, as well as any weapon modules like the SC Blaster. Now, I'll note that the SC Blaster, I don't recommend getting it early on, but later on it's not a bad idea to get this. Basically, the SC Blaster is like an area of effect weapon that does very low damage, but it'll basically hit everything in a room. And it's a good weapon to get if you basically have it, like, you know, at the floor like 9, 10, 11, such like that. The Hollow Hero is also a good pickup. Basically, this will create a hero that will basically absorb damage before your other heroes do. Though, I don't think that's basically too much of an issue for me, so I'll just basically stick with the SC Blaster over here. So start researching that. And I'll go over here to open this door. Now no monsters are spawning, which is quite nice. Alright, that's basically it for this wing of the dungeon. Alright, so here's a merchant. So, since I found this merchant, here's what I'm going to do with him. I'm essentially going to go to him and sell all the stuff I don't want from the previous floor, as well as this armband, which I don't want. So that I basically get as much, you know, food as you can see for resources basically trading in. As a result, basically, you know, picking all these items up. So I can sell this, I'll sell this, I'll sell this, and I'll sell this. And I'll get a nice little bit of food to pick up from that. Note that I'm keeping the hipster scarf. And I want to make a special note about this hipster scarf. The reason I'm keeping it in my inventory and not like on a character is because it's actually a very useful idea to keep your stuff in your inventory like this. And I'll basically show you why in the next monster wave, just so you can see why. As for Max, we'll basically power up this from here. And I'll send him down in this direction to basically look past this module a little bit. The artifact here. Nice, we got an empty room. And our research module. Alright, so note that right now monsters are basically coming at you here. Let's just say that I had a very overwhelming amount of guys coming in here and they're basically hurting Nana and Max a lot. And Gork was okay. If I want to, I can basically equip right now the hipster scarf on him. And that would actually cause all the enemies in the room to start talking Gork at that point. So what's nice about having like your hipster scarf in your inventory like this is that you can basically, you know, equip it on a hero that's basically not taking a lot of damage to basically start tanking for their guys if need be. And you can do this at any point in the dungeon. So say like, you know, these guys are fighting up here, and Golgi and say Max were up here, like where stuff was also cutting at them. If like they were in trouble, I could basically put them on there, if like, you know, need be. So basically I need to like, you know, a priority item I can basically use when I'm in a hotspot, more or less. And I'll pause and we'll basically continue at this point. Alright, I'm not sure if I've seen this monster yet in this run, but these guys that look like hunched over men with like canes, they're actually called wizards, and what they do, they'll actually use a magic on you that basically weakens your heroes. So these guys are priority targets because they'll basically weaken your heroes, make them a lot less effective, though minor monsters aren't affected by them, so that's good to know. Alright, so that's all out of the way. I'm going to power this room down, or not that room, but we're going to power this room down, or up. And I'll send Max to do a little bit more research for us. And I'll pick up the tactical HUD-4. And I'll pick up pepper spray too. Alright, this is actually a good point to make use of the cooking of gas ability so I can get more dust. So let's do that. And get some more dust to pop out from these guys. That unfortunately didn't work too well. Ooh! Alright, so this is definitely the first time you've seen these guys. So these are the Herna warriors, and I actually expected to see these guys a lot sooner. But essentially these guys are basically big hunking warriors that'll basically do a lot of damage to your guys. They're slow moving and they have a lot of HP. So basically you have to will them down over time, more or less, usually with lots of modules. Though, because there's only two of them and I've got, you know, good defense here, these guys should go down easily enough. So they'll walk in the room, and they'll just die. So I have Herna warriors. Now I'll note that they basically came there a little bit after because the merchant was down here. Those guys will seek out merchants if they're around, and it'll kill them. As well as other heroes, by the way. So you want to be very careful of those guys. Let's open up this door next. Alright, I want to note something, by the way. If you have ample science, and you have like an active ability user like Nano, and you have like an ability that's on cooldown, essentially, as you can see, it'll take two more doors before this basically comes off cooldown. If you have an ability on like one of these guys that you want to make use of right away, you can actually restore these guys, and it's actually an ability inside their like, you know, their inventory screen here. If you press restore, which basically costs you a little bit of science, so basically restore their actives to full status. So now I can basically use this cooking with gas again if I want to, and I'm going to do so in a moment. Just going to wait for them to get a little closer, and then we'll start killing them all. We got a little bit of dust for that, which is nice. Alright, those guys that are basically coming at me, those Herna warriors, they're actually really weak to pepper spray. So this is actually a good time to make use of pepper spray, perhaps. We'll put one right here. And I'll put, let's see here. Let's put a couple smoking guns in here as well. And then we'll do over here the same thing more or less with a couple of defenses. So essentially what I'm doing here, I'm making like this sort of like buffer zones between my heroes with pepper spray and a bunch of other weapons. The pepper spray will basically target a monster inside a group, and denote their targeting priority. These guys go after the most powerful monster basically is in the room. The pepper spray will basically turn the monsters against each other, which basically causes them to go berserk and like start attacking their friends. So this is a really good weapon to use against like powerful monsters that are Herna warriors. And because this is, you know, the elites that we're basically dealing with at this point, they're basically going to do a lot of damage to other monsters for us before they basically have to be taken down eventually after all the other monsters are dead. So we'll basically see how this works in a moment. And this is actually a good time to level up Max a little bit more, so let's do so. Let's level him up twice. Actually, let's level him up 3 times so I can get Endless Expert here. This will basically cause us to get some extra signs per door opened. Basically, Max has this ability called Endless Expert, which basically gives you more signs over time. And if you level up to 2 here, you get a little bit more signs, which basically helps you out a little bit further. Basically, this will let me get more signs to basically activate this guy's ability more and more when I need to. Now, they did leave me with no food, but I think we're good for now, so it's okay. And these rooms are terrible. There's absolutely no like major module slots at all. Alright, so again we're going to basically reset this guy's ability. I'm going to hold off on using it until stuff gets a little bit closer to us over here. And then we'll kill them all. So, I'm not sure you saw it there, but some of those monsters in that room started to attack each other. That was basically caused by the like pepper spray, basically causing monsters to attack each other there. Alright, let's go after Seblaster 2 now. And of this stuff here, I'm going to say I don't need any of this stuff here, so we're going to reset our researches. And then we'll go after Pepper Spray 3. There's some food, which is nice. And no monster spawn, which is nice as well. Let's go over here. Nice, an item was found. Now, I'll note by the way at this point, I basically found a toothpick. I don't actually have like the merchant here to sell to anymore, but it's worth knowing that I can still carry over to the next level in case there's an merchant on the next level. And while we're at it, I think we'll restore Nair's abilities again. Now, I'll note that this is very costly to keep doing this, but because Nair's ability is so good for getting dust, it's really worth doing this if you have dust problems. And in this case, like, you know, in the higher levels, this is where you start to run into dust problems a little bit more. Alright, let's activate this now and let's just watch the fireworks begin. Alright, excellent. Everything died. And as you can see, dust is basically popping up because enemies are being killed in these rooms too. Which basically helps out with my dust score a little bit more. Alright, in this room over here, let's build a smoking gun. And our pepper spray. That'll help further hamper the monsters as they basically come through these corridors over here. I assume there's going to be a lot more rooms over here because this is like the rest of the dungeon over here, so I'm going to need more defenses on this side of the dungeon than, you know, this side. And I'll note that because there's no like monsters I see that attack major modules, it actually makes sense to put something out over here. So I think at this point, and I'll note that I could be building this stuff if I want to, but I'm actually going to build a tactical HUD at this point. So the land modules and the tactical HUDs are basically modules you can build that'll basically help you out, basically with land modules increasing your defense for your modules, and a tactical HUD basically increasing your attack power for your heroes. So these are like good support modules to basically build around sometimes. And this is a good time to build them. So I'll basically increase my guy's attack power over here a little bit to make him a little bit stronger in killing stuff, which will be useful if I start to get overwhelmed in that spot. Just a nice long corridor. Alright, let's activate the runaway ability and just run out of here. Alright, so I'm not sure if you're noticing it right now, but he's actually being confused and he's actually turning around to attack other monsters. So there's Pepper Spray in action right there. And while we're at it, I'm going to reset this guy's abilities once more time and get a little bit more dust going on. Hopefully that'll help out my dust situation a little bit better. Using his skill constantly. Alright, there we go. We got a little bit more dust. I'll just go pick it up. Quite a bit of dust there, in fact. Alright, let's go in this direction, I guess. And I'm going to build another major module over here. Another tactical HUD. Now, I want to note that these tactical HUDs, they do stack. So their effects will get better and better as you build more of them. And also in this room, this would be a good place to basically show you the Neurostunner. So the Neurostunner is like this module I built, I basically researched this long ago, like earlier. And it's actually a module that basically slow enemies inside this room. Also in this room, I'm going to build Seblaster, so you can basically see how these work. I'll build a whole lot of them. So you get to see the action of the Seblasters in a moment when I basically have monsters into this room. And these other rooms, I think we'll just build, at this point, prisoner prods. To be honest, I think I have more than enough defenses to basically handle anything that's basically coming out these corridors, so... This is sort of a, window dressing this stuff here. And I'm not doing research, so let's get Max over here to do that. Or actually, you know what? I got Nair over here. You can come down and do it for me. Near Gorka and Nair are operating, right? So I can move them down here if necessary. Of this stuff, I should probably note, by the way, that the Claymore Mine, this is actually very similar to the Seblaster, and it's got an AoE effect. But since I'm already researching the Seblaster, I'm not going to pick up this one. And instead, I'm going to basically just research the research one more time. And we're going to go after Seblaster 4. And we'll also get Pepper Spray 4. So I'll get this up to 4. I'll get that up to 4. And I'll note, by the way, that after I get those like modules researched up to level 4, it might be a good idea to hold off from researching further modules. At some point, you may want to basically hold off from researching further modules and just focus on leveling your heroes or building up industry for the final levels. So that might be the time to do so now. Also, you note that, by the way, that you can operate on these tactical HUDs. And you actually operate in all the major modules. So you can operate on shops, on the emergency generators. You can even operate on the tactical HUD or the land modules. Each of these have their own effect when they basically get operated on. Basically, you get more defense for your modules if you operate on these, more offensive power for your heroes. If you're operating on a shop with a merchant, it'll basically give you dust. And operating on emergency generators basically increases the probability of monsters dropping loot. So all good things to basically operate on, and actually important later on too, in the further levels. Alright, let's have Max open this door. And he's just going to run away. Though it looks like nothing attacked me, so maybe we'll just hold off on doing that. Found some food. Wow, I'm getting pretty lucky with no monsters attacking me. I'm quite happy about that, I guess. Alright, there's the final room over in this direction. And there's the exit. So that's basically the exit all the way over here. That's sort of good, but also sort of bad. Basically, you'll note that the exit is getting farther and farther away from the crystal. So that's more rooms I basically run through to get to the exit. Alright, so as sort of stated, I'm basically going to hold off and do more research at this point because I think I've actually got a good array of like modules basically carry me through for the rest of the game. There are other modules you can basically research, but I find that I've actually got a good set here to basically get through the game with already. Though, to spend some research space to show you off some other stuff to look into. The Suppressive Firebolt is also worth possibly getting in the future. This is a good like module to basically increase the attack power of your heroes. So if you have very high DPS heroes, this can basically let you do a whole lot of damage with them. So that's worth looking into. You know what, let's just research it right now. Also note that bioorganic transference is also a good one to look into. This basically heals up your monsters based on the monsters you kill in the room. So if you kill, like, say, one of those Herna warriors, you'll basically get up to 100 HP for killing that one warrior, which will be evenly distributed to all the heroes in the room. So basically, if you have like 4 heroes in the room, you'll get 25 HP for all your heroes for killing that Herna. So this is a very good trade-off in some rooms sometimes. Wild will research as well. And let's open perhaps this door next. Alright, so there's our merchant. So it's worth knowing that you can sometimes find multiple merchants in a dungeon, and in this case we just found our merchant. Though this guy's again a dust merchant. But he is worth keeping alive. Now, here's something that I don't recommend you do, but it is something you can do if you want. I haven't actually used this ability yet here, but this is basically an option to destroy modules that you basically don't want anymore. So let's just say I want to build a shop, but I don't have any room to build anywhere. I can get around that problem by simply tearing down a module. So maybe I'll tear down this module here. And as a result, I now have an open space to build a shop. So as a result of doing that, this merchant's now over here, safe and sound. And I can use him at the end of the level when I basically, you know, go to him to buy his stuff and then run to the next level. Alright, let's open up this door next. And we finally have hostile mobs to worry about. Alright, so we're going to get to see the Seblaster and the Neuro Stunner in action. So the Neuro Stunner will basically slow down monsters that enter this room. And the Seblaster will basically hit everything that enters the room. As you can see, it does quite a bit of damage when they're in mass like this. A good defense. Now, I should be noting something about the Seblasters. The Seblasters are very special weapons in that they're one of the few weapons that can actually damage your heroes. So, doing a lot of damage to enemies, they'll also damage your heroes if they're in the room with them. So be very careful with these Seblasters. You don't want to have heroes in the same room with these when they're going off. I'll note that you can use the claymores over these guys if you basically are really worried about AoE damage hitting your own guys. But generally I like to use these because they're just so much more damaging, and because they'll basically hit everything in these big rooms like this. So they're basically awesome to use. And I think we'll go up here and we'll build... You know what, let's just show this off right now. So, note that basically he has DPS 209 and attack power 126 right now. That's from like the turn tactical HUDs being up. Once I build another tactical HUD, this 209 will go up to 244. So these do basically stack with each other, so it's worth building more if you basically want to make your guys, you know, killing machines more or less. It's also good to note that the land modules are much the same way. So if you build a bunch of these, you'll basically buff up your modules a lot more. Though I find heroes are a lot more effective to buff up your damage with than the modules more in most situations. Alright, let's go open some more doors of Max here. I found an item. Now, depending on what's down in these research modules, I'm going to actually show you something about these as well. Okay, so I want to note something about these research modules. These are much like your other artifacts in that if they basically are taking up space that you basically want to use, you can tear these down. And you actually make room for other stuff if you need to. So in this case, we now have a free major module slot. If I want to, I can build another tactical HUD and boost up my hero's offensive power even further. So if you have like too many of these research models at any given time, you can basically tear them down to basically replace them with, like, you know, something else if you need to do so, such as a shop, for example, which I could have done instead of basically going after this. Though at the time that I built this, these are being used to research stuff. And I think that we're going to restart our research here. And I'll go after the suppressive firebolt. I'll basically try and get these, like, you know, the bioorganic transference over here, as well as the firebolt, the suppressive firebolt up to, like, tier 4. And I'll say that'll be good for my research for then there. But I'll note that I could probably ignore those if I want to, and be happy with, like, the weapons I currently have here, along with all this stuff that, you know, besides the bioorganic transfer here, to basically do a lot of defense with. And I haven't used a dust field generator, but I could also use this if I want to. And you'll note this basically increases your defense for your heroes, which is very useful sometimes, depending on how, if, like, your heroes have a lot of defense or not. Alright, I see monsters coming. So much like before, they're going into their kill room over here. And as you can see, they're taking a lot of damage in this room. Though unfortunately, this guy got through. But, doesn't really matter. Now, I should probably know something about the Seblasters. This is probably one of the better weapons to use on, like, columns of, like, corridors that you basically won't be sending your heroes up and down a whole lot. So if you have, like, empty spaces like this over here, and, like, you don't plan to have heroes over here, this is a good place to put a lot of these Seblasters, because they can really help you out in, like, killing stuff. We'll heal that stuff up now. And I guess we'll open the doors over here next. There's our research module if we need it. And you know what? This is actually probably a good place to use Nair's cooking with gas at, times. Basically, you can get a whole lot of dust from these guys getting killed in here. Lots of dust will pile up now as a result of that. It's all over here. And that's dust I can use over here now if I want to. So now I can make use of this research module, but I have stuff to research. Though I'll note that I'm not using a whole lot of research, right now at the moment, because I've only got one little science module to basically generate stuff for me. So as you can see, we're losing a lot of science as a result of it. And you know what? This is probably a good time to hold off on doing more research until I actually get more research, basically, more research to basically pile up to basically make use of first. Ah, very nice. So I just found a purple tier HR manual. This is worth replacing my current one with, and it'll basically give me a little bit more defense as a result. Now, I'll note that you don't really see a whole lot of difference between the HR manual here and this one here. It's worth knowing that the HR manuals are basically one of the expensive items that they don't really change much depending on your tiers. So I only get 2 extra defense basically from this being like green and this one being purple. Just to point that out. But they're still pretty effective, nonetheless. Alright, let's send Max down over here again. And that's the last door of this floor. And I just found a tools belt. Alright, so I want to note something about some items, like the tools belt here. So I want to note that, you need a hero to repair stuff, the modules, when they basically get damaged. But it is possible that for heroes that don't have the skill repair, to actually repair stuff if they have a tools belt. So for example, if I go to Nanner here and actually equip the tools belt on him, he can be used to, let's say, repair this module over here. So I can send Nanner over here now, and he'll basically repair that module up to full. Same with these Seblasters over here. Now, it's not good to rely on these type of items unless you actually find them. So it's good to have like a hero like Max, for example, who can repair stuff for you instead. But if you do find those items, they'll make your life a lot easier. Because then you don't have to worry about having a repair hero like them to actually repair your stuff. You can just have a guy equip one of these, like, tools belt, and repair them wherever you need them to have them repaired. Alright, so that's the end of this level. And this is a good time to go look at the shopkeeper, as well as get my guy's position to get out of the dungeon. So we're going to do this, and this. And we'll start powering up all the rooms over here. And why not? We'll pile up one room here and one room here. Or I guess not. I'm going to get Max, Gork, and Nanner to basically head to the exit. And I'll have Golgi here walk up to this merchant here, basically sell stuff and buy stuff. Now, other stuff being shown here, I'll note that the Soul Taker here is actually kind of worth looking at. But as you can see, it's basically got less damage output than like the Rapier, so I'm not going to worry about it. The Hipster Scarf is better than the current one I currently have, so we're going to buy that. The Narrow Bros are basically wit increasing items, so they're definitely worth buying. And Drogomatic is definitely worth buying. And, well, I'll buy a Soul Taker too. Of these items I bought, I'll note that the Hipster Scarf I'm basically going to keep it, so we're going to put it up here. Now, the Tools Belt, I keep this if I don't have like a person like Max who can basically repair stuff for me. But at this point of the game, I'm not really using Nana or Gork to basically explore doors. I'm using Max. So we're basically going to, get rid of Tools Belt probably. Essentially, any item I don't need, I'm basically going to sell to this merchant. And then any item I'm going to keep, I'm going to basically keep for the next floor. So I plan to keep 3 items and sell 5 of these. I'll basically sell the stuff that's least expensive here. And I'll note that, by the way, that the Rapier here is actually cheaper than a Soul Taker. Even though the Rapier is better for Nanner. Keep an eye out for that, by the way. Some items are actually better, like, weapon-wise. Like this. Even though, like, this weapon is probably better in the long run for you. There's not a whole lot of difference between these weapons, but this one's priced less, this one's priced more. And that Drogomat replaced my HR Mana, which I want to basically put back on. And that's why DPS dropped, by the way. It's because, basically, once I took this off, the DPS I was getting from teamwork, the team spirit ability here, it basically ran off from this stuff. So that's why this thing's like class is like being like, better, because it's basically outright better than a Rapier. But with other items, the Rapier is actually better than it. So just point that out as well. Now, this Drogomat is actually worth noting. It's actually a really good item to have. It basically increases your defense and your regen, which is, pretty good in most situations. For Max here, I don't really care too much because he's basically going to be more of a DPS attacker. And same with Gork. Now, if you have to actually find a DPS item for him, a machine gun yet, but oh well. Hopefully I'll find a machine gun soon for him. Alright, let's go to Golgi here. I'm actually going to take off the Battlefield Injector. And we're going to place that with the, where is it? The Nano, there they are, Nano Bros. These actually give more width than the Battlefield Injector. And I'm going to lose that speed, but it's definitely better to have more width if you're going to be using, like, say, Golgi for operating as a result. Alright, so this is all stuff I plan to sell, I think. I don't plan to use any of these items on my heroes specifically, so all this stuff will be sold, and the most expensive items that are there, I'll basically keep for next level. That's basically the plan I'm going for here. So we'll sell a toothpick. We'll sell the HR manual down here, as well as the Battlefield Injector. It looks like the Tools Belt is actually the most expensive item in my inventory, which is kind of odd. And the Soul Taker is not as expensive, so we won't worry about it. And of the items I currently have up here, the Hipster Scarf, the Drogomatic, and the Cheater's Armband are all the same price. I'll sell the Hipster Scarf since I already have, a copy of it. And I'll basically keep all this stuff for next level. This extra dust will basically use to power up the columns down over here, as well as the 2 rooms over here. And for now, I'm going to do my best to get Golgi to run the crystal down without getting my other heroes killed or her killed. Now, I'm going to pause this right now. It's worth knowing that if you have equipment on like your heroes that basically slows them down like a spacesuit, one way of... Oh. Be sure to check to see if you have inventory in your, like, you know, lost the inventory slot down here when you're checking inventory to leave. If you have like these free items like this, they will get lost. You'll only keep the hipster scarf. Make sure you move up stuff if you plan to keep it. But anyhow, if you have like Golgi here and she's being slowed down by like, you know, a lack of speed, something you can do with the spacesuit, for example, is just take it off, and that'll actually speed her up just a little bit so she can move a little bit faster. And once she gets to her destination, just put this back on. And you can just leave the dungeon to go on to the next level. So that was basically it for floor 9. And that was basically the first level where you're probably going to be facing all elites on it. So I have basically all elite mobs I had to face there. And from like the double digit levels 10, 11, and 12, this is where I say you probably want to watch out for special monsters really a whole lot. Now, you haven't really seen any special monsters yet. Basically, they're like very special in how they basically act and operate. But if you basically haven't seen them yet, they probably should show up in floor 10 or 11. Though, much like any roguelike game, it's random chance if they show up or not. But anyhow, that's going to be it for this episode. I'll see you guys when I basically come back to do floor 10. For now, take care.